Hey everybody, it's Chugga Conroy. Welcome back to more EarthBound. Last time, we walked home a very special lady and got to spend time with our family at the end of our travels. This time, it is time for everything that we have not seen yet. Various mysteries about the game and other miscellaneous topics that just didn't fit in anywhere else. Yep, it's a bonus video. Starting off, I want to say that we are not done learning everything there is to learn about EarthBound. That much I am certain, and the information in this video might even become dated with time because of that. How can I be so certain that we're not done learning everything about it? Well, because the first mystery that I'm going to be talking to you about here today has already shown up in this video, and it's something that every single one of you has the potential to solve. It's the live-action photo in the intro. No one has ever been able to publicly identify where that photo was taken. Live-action photos in this franchise are not unique to only that instance. All other instances have been identified. For instance, this is the Ostrich Burger's historic stop on Route 66. So if you were assuming that, oh, it must have been taken by some developer somewhere in Japan, no. It might very well be a stock photo from a library, could have been taken anywhere. And if you want to help solve this mystery and be on the lookout for it, here is the most clean version of the photograph with all the graphics displayed on top of it removed. It's also possible there might be more photo manipulation at play than just adding the UFOs, so keep that in mind that the signs might not match up perfectly. If you have any information, I'd love to hear it. Second, EarthBound has a very inconsistent title. It has seemingly never been called EarthBound: The War Against Gygus anywhere, though some third-party listings and retailers listed it as that. Officially, it has been EarthBound with a lowercase b on top of the cartridge, but the player's guide included with every copy has used the lowercase b, the uppercase B, and EarthBound! The official logo seems to suggest that it should use an uppercase B, yet it's technically an all-caps logo, so who actually truly knows? I'd say that that's probably your best bet because that's what Super Smash Bros. Has used in all the years since this release. And, like I said, a lot of the same people were involved in that production. Similarly, in the Japanese version, it also has an inconsistent title where sometimes Mother is capitalized normally, but is sometimes MOTHER! Though all caps for English text is not exactly uncommon when it comes to Japanese things having English written titles. Third up is that we got to see one of the debug modes, much to my surprise, when we were doing the 3 tent glitch, but it turns out there are 2 other debug modes in the game as well. One of them is fairly well known, where it uses Kirby's sprite from Kirby's Dream Course as a cursor. If you didn't know, EarthBound and Kirby's Dream Course, both great games by the way, were developed in-house at HAL Laboratories at the same time, with some development staff even being involved in both projects. This is evidenced not only because the debug mode uses Kirby graphics, but in fact, most Kirby's Dream Course sound effects are just EarthBound sound effects played at different speeds and pitches. Why are there 2 separate debug menus? The one that we saw is for changing the game while it is running, adding items to one's inventory and whatnot, changing various things about it, while this one is a boot menu meant to change the game before you would actually start playing. Personally, I like this one a lot because it's also much easier to understand, and like every good debug menu, it has the options flag, goods, save, apple, and a banana. The third debug menu is probably the least known about, and it's the in-battle one. Ironically, I would say it's probably the most stable out of all of them and not going to crash your game so easily. With this, you can do things like add items into your inventory in real time, test out any PSI move at any time during the battle to see how the game reacts animation-wise. It's pretty fun to mess around with. EarthBound has very strange and quite humorous anti-piracy measures, some of the best in all of video games. In fact, I would say it might be one of the best-known bits of trivia about it. If the game fails a memory check and detects that it is a pirated copy, enemy spawns go wildly insane. Essentially, there are so many enemies everywhere that it's meant to make the game unenjoyable. A lot of people out there think that, oh my gosh, I think I have a pirated copy just because there's a lot of enemies on screen from time to time. No. You would never encounter this in any realistic situation nowadays. If you want a quick and easy way to tell if you do have a pirated copy of EarthBound, or if the measures have been triggered by some crazy random chance, perhaps cosmic radiation, like I believe my sign buddy was, go to Onet after you have beaten the sharks, and you will see spiteful crows around in the city that aren't even supposed to be around there at all, and they will have glitched up battle backgrounds, making it very clear that you should not be seeing that. You might think that perhaps maybe doing some work under the hood to enable these anti-piracy measures could make the game really challenging and give you a little bit of extra fun. Well, about that. The game checks periodically to see if the measures are enabled. One of these checks is during the final boss fight, and if it succeeds that check, the game will crash at that point, and when you reload it, all of your save data is gone, wasting all of your effort. It's pretty evil how the game gets revenge on you for stealing it. And actually pretty ahead of its time at that. I've had the opportunity to talk about multiple changes from the beta that were witnessed in various screenshots and in some other places, yet there's one big thing I haven't had a chance to tell you about. We almost didn't get, what a cute little yellow backpack. There's no backpack upon Ness's back. It feels so weird to imagine a world where we wouldn't have gotten this, yet it seems like it was a very last-minute addition to his character. Similar to Ness, Paula also went through a last-minute design change. I think we ended up with the better for both of them. Around the Japanese release of Mother 1+2 on Game Boy Advance was an art book showcasing various dropped concepts for EarthBound. One of which I've already talked about, the Dungeon Man having a city upon his noggin. Some that I haven't discussed are Dr. Ananutz's lab looking far wackier than it did in the finished game, being in a grassy meadow of sorts, and his head looking like a warhead going off. I'm sure there had to have been radiation in that phase disorder to make it work somewhere. Saturn Valley was actually a valley and appeared to have an onion from Pikmin in it. There's also a Saturn-like UFO flying around, and this is kind of paired up with some artwork in Super Smash Bros. 64, where there was a similar thing seen that's nowhere in this game. Stonehenge was originally not Stonehenge, and Jeff much more closely resembles Lloyd from EarthBound Beginnings, possibly a design holdover before they had a finished design. This Lost Underworld picture is neat. Paula's bow is a little bit different. That's about all there is to say about this one. The book refers to this image as Winter's Village, implying that it might have had a town at some point or another. It's kind of funny how they refer to Winters and Summers as sister cities, when Winters has exactly 3 buildings and they are nowhere close to each other. The caribou in this one can't help but make you smile. It would have been right at home in EarthBound. And lastly, some pictures of Jeff and Tassie in a much more grassy-looking region. Another side topic is that EarthBound can be played with one hand, so you can play while eating pizza. The L button replaces A, and the select button replaces B. No functionality lost whatsoever. I personally love the intro music, but if you were getting a little sick of it, I got good news for you, because we're moving on. We're gonna start up a new game to show some different things. Sadly, there's no New Game Plus. That feature wouldn't, be invented for a few months after this game's release. And why not? We haven't used the plain flavor at any point in this series. Let's give it one video. On the screen for creating a new game, I want to tell you about some text that is not unused, but very unlikely to see. If the game goes to look for save data and there's some kind of error where it can't pull it up, you'll see this message. Likely not seen by any QA staff because it runs outside of the text box when it's not supposed to and doesn't do that in the Japanese version. I don't mean to brag because who wants to brag about losing their save data? But I'm one of the lucky few who have gotten to see this text in-game legitimately. It was while doing a live speedrun. Ouchies. Okeska. If you never equip the crack bat, Pokey gives you a little bit of a dressing down, and then breaks the 4th wall. The dog has sprites for various situations that cannot be seen in-game, such as climbing, implying that he might have been a more permanent party member than what he ultimately ended up being. For all the lifelike themes explored in EarthBound, you'd think a kid and his dog would be right there along with the other ones and it'd be right at home, but I guess I got my wish another time in another game. Should you somehow get King out of where he's supposed to be and use him as a more permanent party member, unfortunately, he doesn't work quite right. His sprites are above the size limit for climbing sprites, and it causes weird stuff to happen in certain situations. I never showed what happened if you say that you're going to stop playing when talking to Dad. The game actually soft locks on the screen, and you have to turn it off or reset. Ness beat the Starman Jr.! Selecting slow text speed on this save file was a conscious decision to show you that, unless you're just really impatient, slow text speed is not a difficulty setting, contrary to what it would seem like with how this battle system is in real time with the HP scrolling down to 0. In this side-by-side comparison, you can see that, in fact, it does scroll much slower down when you're on slow text speed to compensate for the fact that you have to mash through the menus. Should the text speed ever get maddening, don't worry, you can always change it right back by just going to setup on the file loading screen. I had some people asking me what happens if the Fire Spring is not the final sanctuary location that you go to. There are 3 other sanctuaries that can possibly be the final one. You're able to skip the Lilliput Steps, the Milky Well, and the Pink Cloud. If any of these are your last sanctuary, it'll just simply play a different version of the cutscene for each of these. Yet, you're able to skirt the bottom of the screen and not trigger the cutscene for Magnet Hill while getting the carrot key to open the Pink Cloud, meaning that can unintentionally be your last sanctuary location. There is no version of the cutscene for Magnet Hill, so in order to progress, you must go to a sanctuary location that is one of the 4 that you normally can get. This guy is something that I got a fair amount of messages about. People saying that they wanted to know what this guy was talking about and how you get some powerful weapon for Ness out of Frank. And to a first-timer, or maybe somebody who doesn't remember the game that well, I can see why you would think this is a hint for something like that, but it turns out, no, it's just foreshadowing that he has Frankenstein Mark II, and he's going to sick it on you, causing there to be a phase 2 of that fight. I've known what it meant for so long that it was a mundane, uninteresting piece of dialogue for me, but I thought that was kind of interesting that a lot of people thought that's what that meant. After so much complaining, I decided to look up what the doctor actually does. He heals damage-dealing ailments, meaning he gets rid of the cold, sunstroke, and poison. Buddy, you're healing Alpha in an expensive white coat. Well, with poisoning, he's healing Beta, yet again, when are you gonna get poisoned when you don't already know healing Beta? You might know that when riding a bicycle, you can press the R button to ring the little bell, just like your controller were a pair of handlebars. Did you know that Ness's dad is a tree? No. If you wait out the 2 hours for Ness's dad to call, it's not programmed correctly to handle you being on a bicycle at the time. The phone ringing will replace the sound effect in memory for ringing the bicycle bell, and it doesn't go back the way it's supposed to. Meaning, it's a car horn! Come on, I ain't getting any younger, move it! Apparently there is a Foreside newspaper article that I missed that mentions that a man in an Aloha shirt had passed away in Foreside, confirming that Everdread had died much sooner. Or, ever dead, if you will. There are multiple newspaper headlines that I was not able to show because there were more newspaper headlines than there were episodes of this series. Here's the ones that I have footage of that you did not get a chance to see. A strange unused graphic is that Everdred has a sprite of a ghost. While some people have theorized that Everdred was perhaps meant to be a party member, I don't agree with this, as he only has a front sprite. I think maybe perhaps he was meant to die in the cutscene in Foresight and you would see his ghost float upward out of his body, since he does die in the final story and there are no other sprites to suggest that he would be a party member, much less any text-based data that would suggest such a thing, and I think that would be the more likely thing than actual graphics. Whoa! There weren't two of you in the field. I was talking about how this is a rare encounter, and, well, I got it without even trying. So, I can't believe I'm saying this. I can't believe I'm saying this. No, this footage is not mine. A user by the name of Dr. Nugget YT found a way to consistently replicate the glitch that I experienced in the Lost Underworld all those years ago. And it's caused by teleporting and crashing into stuff when there's enemies being loaded in and the game can't keep up, so it just displays glitched up battle data from graphics that are present. There's corrupted graphics he's gotten to appear through this glitch, he's had the small tendas appear through it, and yes indeed, he's had the sign appear. The game crashes upon battle, and basically this is just a standard glitch in EarthBound where whenever there's glitched up enemy data and the game doesn't know what to do, then it just takes from graphics that are currently present. In some cases it can even use Nessus Sprite, and gives you a non-existent battle that crashes the game. I do find it kind of vindicating that it's caused by something that I typically do in the Lost Underworld and even recommended that you do, so it makes sense why I would have run into this glitch and why not a lot of other people would have heard about it. One thing I never had a chance to show is that the flying men will actually get more and more anxious as more of them die. I was able to get through the Sea of Eden with only my third flying man, and I wasn't about to look a gift horse in the mouth there. So let's talk about that here. The first flying man says, "I am your courage. I follow you here in Magic Ant." My name? Let's say Flying Man. The second, "I'll be your courage. I'll remain unless you lose your courage. Call me Flying Man 2. I'm Flying Man 3. Your courage hasn't died yet. Let's go. I am also your courage. Call me the Return of the Flying Man. How's that? However, don't treat us like trash. And the last one, of course we're your courage. But be warned, you do not treat us like trash. Don't you get it? This isn't courage, it's desperation. If you don't understand, look it up in the dictionary. Okay? My name is the Final Flying Man. Their tombstones also get a lot more sad as it goes on. The first Flying Man's is, Nessus' courage is resting here. He fought well and died. 2, another one of Nessus' courage is resting here. He damaged evil terribly, and finally died. 3rd, here he rests. I didn't have time to have his name chiseled into the tombstone. 4th, someone's tombstone. 5th, tombstone. I've talked periodically about the 1 in 128 challenge and all the items that you need to get if you were to do it, except for one, and I swear I didn't mean to leave out such an evil one in case any of you are playing along with those rules, but if you've done all the other items in the challenge, I hate to tell you, you are really going to hate me in a moment for telling you about this one if you didn't already know. The mechanical Octobots in Dark Onet have a 1 in 128 chance of dropping the Meteotite. And this is a particularly evil item, and you might be wondering why, because, you know, it's not really that hard of a fight. You know, they're probably the easiest enemy around here. And why is it any more rare than anything else? Well, the Evil Eyes have a 1 in 32 chance of dropping the same item, meaning that you can't prove that you cleared the challenge unless you find a mechanical Octobot without an evil eye, and then do it, plus they have all of the same field sprites. It is downright nasty, very, very mean, and Even though I think the manly fish's brother is a rare occurrence, this might be the actual harder challenge to do in the way of just setting up the battle, because all the enemies look the same. Not only that, but the Ghost of Starman is involved in most fights, and it also has a drop that is just as likely that might overwrite the Meteotite. You could be here for quite a while. This next thing is going to be probably the most controversial thing I say in this video, yet I feel strongly enough that I need to say it. Starstorm Omega sucks ass. I grew up thinking that it was a great, overpowered, amazing attack that makes Pooh a great party member, and it's the thing that he has that is really, really notable compared to the others. No. No, it doesn't. And no. No, he isn't. Let me explain. Starstorm Omega is not learned until after the point of no return, and as a result, he can only use it in the final area. There is no other method of obtaining this attack so that you can learn it prematurely. It is locked to only being used in the final area because you can't use Pooh in the ending either. So what can you even do with this attack in the final area? Well, you can't use it on Gygus because on phase 1 it's actively a negative thing for you to use multi-target attacks because he'll just deflect it back at you. In phase 2, it's the only phase where damage even means anything, but you'd be spending an outrageous amount of PP to hit a single target for just a few hundred damage when he only has 2,000 HP, and there's far more efficient ways of hurting a single target for that much damage. And you're gonna get into, what, like 10 regular battles before you reach Gygus unless you're grinding for the Gutsy Pat? And what of these regular enemies? Well, the final Starman starts the battle with a psychic power shield that deflects it right back at you just like Gygus does. So using it in those battles is outright bad for you unless you spend a whole turn removing the shield, because Jeff almost never moves before Pooh, and he's the only one who can get rid of said shield. And when you're not fighting a final Starman, chances are you're fighting either one enemy by itself, like the Bionic Kraken or the Squatter Demon, which can only be fought alone, or there's a nuclear reactor robot involved in the battle where multi-target attacks are outright a bad thing for you because you can't assure that the nuclear reactor robot will be the last enemy to fall. It is so useless. There's no good opportunities to use it. I am impressed that in the first battle I got into in the Cave of the Past, I actually did use it in a situation where it made sense, because I often go the entire game without ever having a battle that I can use it in where it's actually a good choice. I consider this one of the most unnecessary attacks in the entire game, and I just feel so strongly about it that I felt like I had to say it in a less serious moment when we weren't fighting Gygus. It just furthers my biggest issue with this game, being that a lot of stuff is not in good places. Another annoyance that I have is this cave entrance in front of Gygus. Those pixels that are inside the cave right there, I've always thought they look really silly, and it's kind of an unfortunate byproduct of the position of the pixels and the fact that they're mirrored. A lot of people have different images that they see inside of it, and for me personally, it's always looked like a cartoony bug wearing a samurai helmet. Another grievance I have is that we didn't get to see every line that Gygus says. He was strangely repetitious in the sorts of things that he said, so here you go, the lines that we never saw Gygus say. I thought it was important to show them because Gygus is just one of those fascinating things that you never get to know everything about, and any little bit of official information there is about him, I wanted to show you. This next topic is getting into how the creators of Gygus came up with him, and I'm gonna warn you, this is very sensitive territory for a lot of people. And in order to talk about this, I don't think there's any different way that I could word these things. So if you are sensitive to very violent topics being discussed, then I would suggest skipping to this timestamp. I wasn't going to talk about this in the moment. I'm going back to it because a lot of sources have it slightly wrong, and I'd like to helpfully hope set the record straight. Did I just say helpfully hope, not hopefully help? A lot of people say that this is based on an experience that Itoi had as a child where he walked into the wrong movie theater for a movie he wanted to see and ended up witnessing a rape scene at a very young age, basing Gygus off the experience. A lot of people have looked for symbolism in how Gygus can resemble parts of a woman's body, or how there could be symbolism for those concepts. The movie that Itoy was seeing, if you want to check it out for yourself, is The Military Policeman and the Dismembered Beauty. The scene that he walked in on is a murder and dismemberment, not a rape. I know that's not much better, but that is what it is. It is based on feelings of sheer terror and guilt from traumatic things that happened to you as a child. Those feelings are the only official word we've gotten regarding Gygus' inspirations. It does not mean that he is explicitly based on the concept of rape. I think a lot of the intrigue about Gygus is that no one can truly agree what he looks like or what he is. There's many different interpretations, and if you just can't see him any other way, or those thoughts are what Gygus evokes for you, I can't tell you that you're wrong. I just thought I would set the record straight on what the official sources say about it. Boy, so much for saying Starstorm Omega sucks being the most controversial thing I talk about in this video, right? In Life After Gygus, the first thing I'd like to show now is something that I never knew, and I was taught by you. That rhymes! Ah, Ness, you've read it already. How do you know about my alternate timelines? That Tony has a heart of gold. The other letters don't seem to do anything by using them on any specific NPC, but the letter from Tony is special. I'm crazy enough to die twice for your amusement. There's a bit of fun that can be had with the game over glitch that I didn't have a chance to show. First off, let's go back into the room where all this happens in, just so you can see how oh my god, you can get into the fight again even though you're already dead? Alright, we're doing that. I'm gonna guess that we just get hurt and collapse instantly. That's legit pretty funny. Doesn't doubly glitch anything, it's the exact same bug as before. All that matters is that you get into a boss fight when there are no enemy encounters on the field and the game doesn't know what to do. It also doesn't seem like these are the game over screen graphics, but rather just the battle interface graphics. Man, I can't believe you can get into that fight again while you're already dead and instantly lose it. Like I said, man, every playthrough. Every playthrough. The thing that I actually wanted to show is this is real cute. Compared to the olden days, this boat ride is like being on a luxury liner. Do you want another ride? I'll give you a ride if you destroyed the Kraken. $20 per person is fine with me, and because there's 0 of us, he doesn't actually take any money away. Ha! Joke's on you, philosophers. You really can take it all with you. You just have nothing to spend it on. Thankfully, for the 0 of you in existence who aren't swimming in hundreds of thousands of dollars by this point, crossing the sea in this way is not a soft lock because Dungeon Man will heal you for free, so no worries about there being no way to earn enough money to res yourself. You guys are smart. You're really smart. I gotta say that. There were a few people telling me that I never did something that I did do, but a lot of you had really great ideas, and this is one that I legit want to know the answer to, and I never thought of for a second. There were a few of you that wanted to know what happens if I got Ness and Paula killed, walked around dead in the ending, revived Ness so that I could teleport, and then go to cutscenes that Paula is in during the ending when she should not logically be dead under any circumstances. Let's talk about those. Ness, thank you for escorting me home. There was something I wanted to tell you, but I've forgotten it. I'm sure I'll remember by the time I see you again. Well, I guess this is it. Understatement of the year. Goodbye. So long. See ya. Bye. And yep, that's about what I was expecting to happen. Ness comes back to life to do the fuzzy pickles for 1 second whenever the photo man takes his picture, so I was thinking that's probably what would happen. Yet, maybe the actual ending might be a little bit different. In case you're wondering, Paula in her room is no different. She behaves the same way if you were to talk to her going up to Ness's house. thing I'm curious about is she going to walk in place as a ghost whenever we speak to Mom? She just pops back into this plane of existence. After Paula is done doing the creepy tribal dance that's customary of Ness's people, or something along those lines, we've got some trivia related to the credits themselves. The ending theme, Smiles and Tears, does have lyrics, though only in Japan. There is a translation, as well as the original lyrics, that I have linked in the description if you want to check it out for yourself. Just note that the lyrics are a direct translation. It does not mean that it's suited to the melody and you could easily sing along with those exact words. It's one of those weird cases where translating a Japanese song into English is difficult while still keeping the same meaning and having it sound good. If you're an anime fan, I'm sure you understand the fight. Next, I want to talk about some cut EarthBound music, but not from EarthBound itself. From Super Smash Bros. Melee. I know that there are some of you out there who will be buried with their copies of Melee, and I'm happy to tell you that there is content that you might not have ever experienced from said game. There was a beta Melee soundtrack released on the Japanese official website for a time. These tracks have recently surfaced online, and they're actually quite different from what we got in the finished product. Hearing music that was cut from such a fantastic, influential soundtrack? Heck yeah, I'm into that. I want you to listen to this one.
You guys gotta watch out for
There's others, including the fan favorite Hyrule Temple having a different theme originally that you can probably find if you do a bit of digging, but that's not really important to what we're doing now, so I'll leave that out of this. In Japan? I'm guessing the change was made because this was already a successful franchise in Japan and they didn't want to be so in-your-face about, yes, this game is getting a sequel in a territory where it was not a pre-established franchise. Wise choice. Now, for the grand finale, the single greatest piece of EarthBound lore is that EarthBound was in an episode of Frasier! We have a plot thread that is yet to be resolved, that got started a very long time ago, and I've been asked many times if I have anything more to say about it. And I'm happy to say that I do. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm holding in my hands right now a response to my Mock Pizza air freshener postcard that I sent in to Nintendo. I haven't opened this yet, but I will show you what is in it. I've had a lot of people asking about updates on this, and I just simply haven't had an update until now. But thought I would record my first reaction to it, and we'll open this. Butter knives do not make very good letter openers, or I just suck. Trying to be delicate because this is technically an EarthBound collectible. Whatever is in here is an EarthBound collectible because it is the official canon response to whatever they say if you send one of these things in now. I'm expecting this to not be an air freshener, but I've heard of people sending in outdated stuff and getting interesting things back, so let's find out. Dear Emil, thanks for sending in the submission slip. I'm sorry for the delay in our reply. The slip was a huge blast from the past for me. This is straight out of a fairly odd issue of Nintendo Power magazine. I used to have a subscription when I was a kid, and Nintendo Power really helped me out of a few binds in some Super NES titles. However, I need to note a few things that may be disappointing to hear. This EarthBound contest unfortunately has ended quite some time ago. Additionally, the Nintendo Power magazine has ceased publication as of December 2012. That said, it may interest you to know that there is a Nintendo Power podcast which is an official podcast by Nintendo of America. You can find them on SoundCloud, https://soundcloud.com, or by searching Nintendo Power Podcast. It may be something you'll enjoy. Also, along with this response, I've included a few small items as tokens of our appreciation. Thanks again for sending this in and for being a fan. Sincerely, Nintendo of America, Inc. And included with this are... Oh! They are bookmarks of Peach and Zelda. Skyward Sword Zelda, and I think Mario Party 10 Peach, if wanting to say what these art assets are from? Okay. That's a lot more than I was expecting, and it continues the trend of excellent customer service experiences that I've had with them. So there you go. That is what happens when one of those postcards is sent in. I do not recommend that you do this, because honestly, your player's guide is probably more valuable with the postcards intact because they're kind of rare beasts nowadays. I just had multiple player's guides with one in poor condition, and I decided that I would show you what happened. It occurs to me that it's a distinct possibility that they chose Peach and Zelda because they thought my name was Emily, like many people do. This has been a fun adventure, and I'm happy that so many of you who initially discarded this game as a product of its time said that it really does feel like something that is timeless. And I guess now we have a memory unique to our playthrough of this game now, don't we? See you guys next time. So now that there's been a face cam in the series, does that make this a live-action reboot?
No.